There was only one way we could possibly follow up the all-time ship chasing episode that was the NFL coaches fantasy draft, and that's by bringing back a mainstay around here, Ben Gretch. Today we're going to talk through rookie running backs and some other ideas, strategies percolating in Gretch's big brain. This is Ship Chasing with Pete, Pat, Davis, and Gretch. Let's do it.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your sight. Jamar. Alpha play chase. Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
Pete, it looks like we're finally piss boys here, right?
All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Davis in his suit jacket, Pat in New York, and Gretch in that all too familiar office of yours. Welcome back, Gretch. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I was wondering, is Davis like dressed like this every week? Is this a thing?
I'm doing a bit today. I'm doing a bit.
Has the bit happened yet?
Yes. Yeah.
How did it go?
It went all right. Basically, I've just decided I cannot mentally get through an off season hating every pick that I make. So it's time to turn the serotonin back on. It's time to feel joy in drafting again. Honestly, doing the main with you guys, the mini-sodes, I've been like, guys, we're gonna win. It's our I felt good. Getting golden
Kamara, so we're probably not gonna win.
No, dude, it was
you drafted Kamara
on auto draft.
We auto drafted Kamara.
We auto drafted. That's what happened.
Over Hampton.
Can't you rewind it?
No, it's long gone.
How do you have a 4-person main in auto draft?
Adding in more people increases the likelihood.
It's called the bystander
of an
effect, Gretch.
Yeah, it's called the bystander effect.
You're on the wrong.
That shit didn't happen when I was around. I'm way too anal for that.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, we got the mini-sodes trickling out. That is the one spoiler we'll allow you. YouTube members, though, have access to those. I saw this.
I got really bad FOMO. I saw that you guys are doing it, and now I find out you autoed Alvin Kamara and you didn't tell them to rewind it or anything. They'll rewind it for you.
We had too much pride. We were too embarrassed. Whenever I see someone asking to rewind a pick, I'm like, this fucking peasant. Just grow up. Take ownership of your decisions. And so I was like, all right, it's my turn to take ownership of what happened. So yes, but I think we've recovered. People who watch the minisodes can judge, but the Piss Boys are back in this most recent episode that I'm going to post tomorrow. But the current minisode recaps the disaster that involved Alvin Kamara. But Gretch, I know you're starting to ramp things up. The Substack is starting to fire here. You've been doing a lot of podcasts, a lot of drafting yourself. So what's on your mind these days?
Oh man, I've been doing a lot more podcasting lately and excited to jump back on with you guys. Excited to talk about rookie running backs. You mentioned to me what do I want to talk about? And I was like, man, there's so many things we could talk about. I've been doing a lot of projections, talking with Leone over on the Establish the Edge feed, doing the projections pods. Those are always a lot of fun, and I know people really enjoy those, so those are great. But the rookie, I want to talk to Pat about rookie running backs because I always love getting Pat's takes. One of the things I'm realizing as I'm going through projections is you don't just get your buddy's takes through osmosis. I was kind of, after I left, after I stopped doing the regular stuff at Ship Chasing, it's like, man, I've been missing talking to you guys, and I'm like, God, I wonder what Pat and Pete think about this guy or that guy or whatever. I famously don't do well with podcasts and listen to a ton of pods or do the audio stuff. So I haven't been able to catch a ton of your guys' work, and I'm really missing that. So I was like, I want to talk rookie running backs with Pat. I always love the way you look at them. Yours, and so obviously I'd talk with Siegel a ton, but you've had different takes in Siegel over the years. I remember a couple of years back, Ramondre is the one that always sticks out to me. I don't think Siegel was really in on him, but you really liked him for some of the stuff that you look at and got me on him, and he was a freaking sweet pick as a rookie, as a day 3 guy. So I want to talk through those guys. I think the double-digit round, late round, day 3 rookie running back class is probably the most important cohort in 2025 fantasy football. You have to draft them in every single draft. It's the deepest. We knew rookies are always the most important, but we knew this class's strength was running backs. We knew it was really deep. people are devaluing draft capital in what was already known to be a deep class. You knew that teams were going to understand that the opportunity cost wasn't there to all chase them up into day 2. We did see 6 go in the first 2 days, but day 3 running backs were going to matter in this class. And then people are still doing the thing where they're like, well, he's just a day 3 back. It's not just a day 3 back in 2025. Like, I strongly feel that way.
I agree.
And it's a really meaningful group to get right. So I'm excited to chat about that.
And I feel like that thing can extend to even Tootin and Scatabo, right? Because a lot of times when people dismiss those guys, they're like, oh, they were round 4 picks. But it's like, are we going to grade this draft class on more of a curve for how strong it was, and knowing that in a weaker year, those guys could have been early 3rd round or late 2nd round type picks. You look at the underdog market where Scatabo's going. I mean, Tootin has slipped a little bit recently, but drafters, like, the market is basically saying, hey, these are guys you want to be in on right now, despite being round 4 picks, because the situation and the talent is maybe better than the draft capital indicates.
But some of them are like Trevor Etienne's not even getting drafted. That dude went the 12th pick of day 3. They took him as the 9th running back in this class, ahead of like Jarquez Hunter, ahead of a bunch of dudes that people really liked. I just did the Panthers projection the other day and did that show with Leone. They brought him in. Jonathan Brooks is out for the year. The only guy they brought in to back up Chuba was Rico Dowdle. Chuba's profile is not bulletproof by any means. And they drafted him
especially
in a way
as a receiver.
Especially as a receiver. And Etienne does some interesting stuff as a receiver. I wanted to talk to you about that because I thought his yards per hour and stuff looked fine. That's one of the big things that you liked about Stevenson, was the way that you look at some of the rookie running back receiving stuff. I want to ask you about Etienne for sure. But that's a guy who, I agree with you, Pete. Some of them are being valued strongly enough, but it's such a deep class that some are slipping through the cracks. Like Etienne's draft capital is just being completely ignored. Completely ignored, in my opinion.
Well, I asked Zach to whip up some slides for us to talk through the rookie running backs. And I was like, yeah, kind of group them by ADP. Trevor Etienne doesn't even make the slides. You know, Kyle Manel guy makes the slide over him because he isn't getting drafted. And I will say, I heard you talking about Etienne on the projections pod with Leone, and I'm sure everyone watching this is familiar with that, but highly recommend that series. And that was definitely like a wake up moment too. I was like, you're right. Like maybe there is similar-esque ambiguity in this backfield as there is, say, with the Browns, you know, and kind of the market overvaluing Judkins relative to Sampson. Maybe we're doing that to an extent a little bit with Etienne. So I like that take.
Well, the hard thing with Trevor Etienne is that he's small. He's 5'9",
right.
196. So I am much more willing to give a pass to the third guy if he weighs 220 pounds. I'm way more interested in that guy. It's the same reason why, like, I was hesitant on Woody Marks to begin. I mean, one, I thought Woody Marks was terrible. Just like you want to find a guy who can never break a tackle. You're going to find Woody Marks. So it's like, what do I win when I get Etienne right? And it's like, well, maybe I win the passing down. Maybe I win 2024 Miles Sanders on the Panthers.
What do you mean,
like
2024 Miles Sanders? Yeah, but the Panthers offense could be a lot better this year too. That's a big part of it.
Chuba's a good runner though. That's I think part of the
the
trouble with
thing.
Etienne. He was very, very efficient as a runner last year, and his flashed throughout his career, honestly. And then Dowdle, I think, is, a solid enough runner and likely ahead of Etienne, who has some pretty big red flags in his rushing profile. So, yeah, I think my thing with Etienne would be like, there's of these day 3 backs, I'm kind of looking for the ones who had really strong profiles and got that early round 4 capital. I would say that's Scatabo and Tootin. I'm with the market on that. I think even if you just consider those dudes like straight up their draft capital, like not even adjusting it at all for this class, they still look like really strong picks, like early 2nd round rookie draft kind of picks, guys that I'm excited about. In my model, they come out ahead of Caleb Johnson with the draft capital plugged in. So those dudes, Scatabo and Tootin,
yeah, but they're coming with like real opportunity. Like I'm with you on Scatabo and Tootin, but they're actually being treated because they won the first 3 picks of day 3. They're being treated almost like
they're being treated like that.
Yeah,
but I think that's correct. Like they're
sure.
And I actually think they're both targets at ADP. But then you get down below that, and I'm the guys I'm most intrigued by, the guys who have like something in their profile that like really jumps out, is like, this is what this guy might do that really would impress coaches, even if they don't have complete profiles. Jarquez Hunter kind of pops that way. because he looks so explosive. Etienne doesn't really do that for me. He has an okay receiving profile, but not all that impressive. And so I'm like a little bit worried that he's kind of what he was in college, where he never really seemed to like pop. He's just sort of like there. So and then he didn't have a great mini camp. So he's not someone I've been really that excited about yet.
You're comparing him to guys going, and I know Tootin's been falling and Scadaboo's been falling, but they're going in like the 10th round. Now they're going a little later, maybe.
Oh yeah, for
this
sure.
This guy's
for sure.
not going drafted in the NFL.
I'd rather have Dylan Sampson. I'd much rather have DJ Giddens, who like his profile looked awesome pre-draft. He goes 5th round. He should, if he's any good at all, he'll be the clear-cut handcuff to Jonathan Taylor. He's actually more interesting to me as a receiver, and he's bigger, and his rushing profile is better.
What don't you like about Etienne's receiving?
It's not that it's bad, but like it's kind of the whole profile, and it's not that good. His elusive rating was good, but he didn't get that many touches per game. His yards per out run's 44th percentile, so not terrible, but it doesn't look like a reason that he would be like, forcing his way onto the field. He ran 13 routes per game.
But his freshman year was terrible, and then his sophomore and junior years were both like doubly as good in yards per out run.
I mean, it doesn't really get more bearish than this. He literally was getting benched for a white guy. I mean, I like Nate.
But you guys are making all the cases that the market's already making. So let me come in and make the bull case because he had a 0.58 yards per out run as a true freshman, then 1.34, 1.03 the next 2 years by PFF's numbers, which I think are pretty solid for a running back. Pat, you have a better reference than me.
Yeah, those are okay.
Over 20 catches both years. It was on 2 different teams. So he caught 20-plus balls with Florida, then transferred to Georgia and caught 30 balls last year. You mentioned the evasion numbers and then kind of quickly said that he didn't have a ton of touches. And I get that. 127 touches, 151, 154. Never had more than that in college. But the evasion numbers are really good, like per touch. They're strong.
Yeah.
They're very strong.
Yeah.
I don't love Woody Marks either, in part because his evasion numbers are like half as many missed tackles forced per touch than Trevor Etienne. I am with you that I'm pretty confident this guy's not very good. And he has huge reception numbers. Woody Marks probably is like a decent receiver, but you're talking about a ceiling that's like Theo Riddick, that he has to be in like a specific role.
Theo Riddick as prospect. Yes.
Totally. Yeah. Which is not great. I'm not in on the Woody Marks thing, and he also gets similar capital. I do think Etienne has some unique elements, or at least somewhat exciting elements. I agree with you that the rushing stuff isn't quite as exciting, but as sort of a space back, when bringing in Dowdle, who was known for some pass blocking stuff, and then Etienne, I think, as the Panthers sort of tacitly admitting that they have issues with Chuba's receiving. JJ Zachariason did some research that Leone mentioned on our ETE show that we were talking about, where guys, running backs that go in that range that have really bad receiving efficiency tend to lose receiving volume the next year. I think we can look at the Panthers offseason moves as an indication of like that trend. Like they're thinking the same thing. And I agree with you. Chuba's a good rusher. But I mean, I'm looking at it like Etienne got real draft capital. He went ahead of guys like Jarquez Hunter and DJ Giddens and Dylan Sampson, who I like all those guys. I'm drafting all those guys that cost 2. But he's going behind them in fantasy drafts and has a runway. They took him after they brought in Dowdle, who famously didn't get any offensive touches for the first 4 years of his career, was just a special teams guy until he had a good year last year. But he's 27 and is basically a nothing burger, if we're being honest about it. In
Crane's mind, he's 23.
Yeah,
he's 23 in my mind. Actually, and I would pretty strongly disagree as a nothing burger for the purposes of a guy like Etienne, because he's like a solid backup. I think last year being able to do what he did as a starter at the end of the year, he would get, I think, probably the first crack at that backup.
That's
role,
fine, but you got to be
not great.
You got to be really confident that Etienne's nothing to not take a rookie with this kind of capital in this class because of a solid backup in Rico Dowdle, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's the ADP that I'm talking about. I wouldn't be excited about Etienne at Tootin or Scadaboo's price. I might not even be that excited about him in the 14th. He's literally not getting drafted. You're even getting the benefit of his ownership percentage is going to be super low. He's not getting drafted. It's wild.
I think that is legitimately valid, but if I'm even comparing him to would you take Trevor Etienne over Eli Mitchell?
Yeah.
See,
What?
I wouldn't.
Probably,
I don't.
yeah. But I'm taking Rashard Smith over him.
Well, yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I
do too.
The way I'm framing it in my mind is like, what do you win when you win? And I don't think I think what you don't win is you are never winning the green zone touches for the Panthers. Like I think he's like a clear 3 for anything inside the 10-yard line.
The other thing I'll just on the yards per route run stuff, like you mentioned Ramondre Stevenson was a guy I really liked. He had 1.74 yards per route run in 2019, jumped to 2.32 in his final year at 2.11. To close, he weighed 227 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, is that going to hold? And it's like, probably not, but it's good. Like it means he's got more
3 years
upside
around
there than you'd expect.
Yeah, that's crazy.
2.11 career. The other dude that I was like pounding the table for is, underrated was Rachaad White, who had 2.61 career yards per route run. So like those dudes that are like really popping like that, I think like that's where I tend to really get excited because if that's not being priced in, then I think there's underrated upside, particularly if it comes with size. With Etienne, you don't have the size. He's not tiny though, and we've seen Bucky's smaller and he's awesome. So it's really about like there's nothing in his profile that's like that really jumps out. We're like, damn, this dude is really good at this. Other than
but that's why he's not going drafted. The market is not missing the guys who have stuff in their profile that jumps out. Those guys are all getting drafted, and they're getting drafted.
I think with Giddens, they are a little bit. I mean, Giddens' kind of overall profile is pretty exciting.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe
Giddens should be kind of being drafted by how like Blake Corum was getting drafted last year, and he is.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Blake Corum was behind Kyron Williams, and people thought that Kyron Williams couldn't hold him off. Jonathan Taylor is not Kyron Williams.
Fair enough.
Like, okay, let me toss this one to you, Gretch. Trevor Etienne, who was the 12th pick of the 4th round, or Ollie Gordon, who was it 6th or 7th round? Like, I'm going Ollie Gordon there, and I'm like, I'm not losing sleep about it because like they're both probably zeros, but in the eventuality that Ollie Gordon has like a real role on the Dolphins, he's like maybe Jeff Wilson Jr.ing himself to 12 touchdowns for the Dolphins.
So I don't necessarily even want to. I like Ollie Gordon too. I don't necessarily even want to make an either or there. The point, and I'm not even that high on Trevor Etienne because I came in saying that I think the day 3 running backs are the most important group in fantasy. My point is that Trevor Etienne he's the first one that came to mind as somebody who's being completely overlooked. We're drafting a lot of guys that got drafted behind him. The point I'm making about the draft capital stuff is if he goes that high in this class, I think it's pretty interesting. One of the things that I really liked about Bucky Irving last year, and he's not Bucky Irving, his profile is not Bucky Irving's profile. I saw somebody in the chat reference Bucky. I was super into Bucky last year. Part of the reason he was so cheap was his combine was really bad. There's always going to be knocks on guys, right? His combine was really bad. He didn't have great straight line speed, etc. But he had a lot of really interesting stuff in his profile. More interesting than what Trevor Etienne has, to be clear. Great production profile, etc. But the Bucs took him RB7 last year, and he was consensus ranked like RB10 in the group or later. And there was concern that he would actually really fall, maybe even go like undrafted because the combine was so bad and he's smaller. Some of these things that you're saying about Etienne are actually similar, but again, it's not the same situation as Bucky, to be like blatantly clear. And yet the fact that he went ahead of where he was ranked consensus, he went RB7 in a group that he went ahead of several guys that were ranked ahead of him. Basically, to me, what we're looking for with draft capital is team buy-in. That was the Bucs telling us they saw the positive in Bucky Irving and not a lot of the concerns. They had a plan for him. They saw the things that he did, the massive missed tackles force rate, evasion rate, etc. All that stuff in college, which immediately translated to the NFL and was awesome to see. And they weren't as concerned about the red flags, the combine stuff, etc. Because that's what draft capital really is. The team that decides playing time is telling us how much they value the player. The fact that Etienne went right after Tootin and Scatterbo before Woody Marks went right after that, which is why I think he's interesting too, in this conversation, and why I'm willing to draw a line between those two is that Woody Mark's profile legitimately is really bad. He's 24, Etienne's 21. That's the other part of it. You got this age element. But Jarquez Hunter, Dylan Sampson, Jaydon Blue, DJ Giddens, Ollie Gordon, Devin Neal, Taj Brooks, Brashard Smith. I'm probably taking all those guys over Etienne. And yet all those dudes went after Etienne in the reality draft. The market is drafting them all before Etienne too. You could be on the clock and Etienne could be there and all those guys could be gone. And so it's not really an either or necessarily. And I do think the Etienne thing was Carolina saying, I mean, they took him right after Scadaboo in this class. They took him and they like things that they see about him. And was Carolina saying that they like him? And I do think part of it early in the offseason with Carolina was like, well, Jonathan Brooks is on this team. And that maybe the market isn't like fully like, yeah, the dude that was kind of interesting and was the reason that Chuba was going late last year is not playing this year. This is a thin backfield. Rico Dowdle is not a real threat if you're a 21-year-old rookie and have any like uncertainty-based upside.
That's
Chuba
probably
has
where we disagree
legitimate
the most.
issues.
I think Dowdle's like a legit upgrade over Miles Sanders. Like I can't believe that the Cowboys brought in Miles Sanders and Javonte, you know, with his injury stuff. And then
I can.
I mean, I kind of can too, but it's like, you know, I think Dowdle is like, I don't think he's like a threat to Chuba or anything, but I think he could make life difficult for a rookie who has, like, I'm not sure like what Etienne does that's gonna like put him over the top on, you know, anyone who's solid. Basically, that's my concern with him. The comps for him that I had were Tyler Ervin, Jason Huntley, Darrington Evans, Mark Walton, Nyheim Hines.
None of those guys. Okay, Nyheim Hines is interesting. None of those guys panned out. But interesting. Stepping back from that,
but they're also kind of like they also fit that like what are you? Like you kind of do some receiving stuff, but not enough, not well enough. You're like an undersized runner who makes people miss, but like not. But we can't like feed you. Yeah. So that that's like my kind of thing with him.
He's a low probability bet. That's, again, why he's going undrafted as a 21-year-old rookie who got real draft capital. There's a reason, like you can poke holes. I completely agree. I don't think his comps, as you read them off, I wasn't expecting you to read off perfect ones, or else I would expect him to be going 4 rounds higher in drafts, right? Like, but so my point is how everything you're saying is the most likely outcome probably. And they did bring in Dowdle as well. I do think it's interesting to think about the chronology of off seasons when teams bring in a guy like Dowdle before they then do draft a running back later. I think, you know, dropping Etienne on top of Dowdle is interesting, but he may just be the longer term vision for a certain type of role or something. But a lot of what you guys are saying is basically like the Panthers don't know what they're doing drafting him. He doesn't play any kind of role. He has so many limitations. Like he can't play in the red zone. They won't use him on pass downs because they already have Dowdle. Then my question would be like, why did they draft him RB9 at pick 114 overall, like right away on day 3? How confident? Because all rookies were playing into uncertainty. Like, how confident are you in all these things? Because it seems like you guys are really confident in some takes that to me are the reasons that we usually just play rookies are like, we're not that confident in these things.
It's not that I'm like that confident that they don't know what they're doing, but you know, teams kind of spend capital in ways that doesn't work that great for us. Like the Rams are talking about how Terrence Ferguson's going to be an awesome successor to Tyler Higbee in a year, and they took a 2nd-round pick on him. Like, well, I'm glad your team planning is like really far looking.
It's always
seems bad.
Well, you get this a lot with wide receivers. Actually, you get it more often than you do with running backs. But like some team will take a guy. Velus Jones, I'm pulling one off the top of my head, but they'll take a wide receiver in round 3 or round 4 that you're like, I don't really see it with this guy. And then you get in the building and they go, guy's freaking awesome special teamer. And he's like,
yeah, it's special teams. Sure.
And, he runs a great deep route or whatever. I'm wondering if one of the things that they organizationally think, well, I'm wondering if they think because Bryce is so short and they want him moving all the time that they always want to have a running back on the roster who can, like, is good after the catch. If that, like, to have a guy, you're always rolling Bryce out to the right. He's right-handed and he's short, so you always want to have a running back within like 6 yards of him who can turn a dump off into like a 6-yard gain. Like I am.
I
just
didn't know where
wondering if
this was going. I didn't know if it's like Etienne was going to be like a stepping stool for Bryce because he's
a
so short
stepping,
or
a
something.
stepping.
Gretch,
And-
oh, go ahead.
I think
Well, I just looked up Etienne's pass blocking stuff. Was like legitimately one of the worst. I've never seen a score this low. Actually, his 2 years at Florida, and then he was better at Georgia. So I'm wondering if they see something there. I've never seen a guy with 2 years of a sub 20 PFF pass blocking grade,
that's not
which
ideal.
Etienne had.
I think
Wasn't
Gretch, you have it
expecting to
right
see
that it's
that.
the receiving profile that they're probably looking at and thinking this guy adds to our backfield in a way that's really nice. It's complementary to the guys we already have, and we can really make use of his skill set. I worry for fantasy that he's not going to be able to stand out in that role enough for us to care.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I'm probably doing the same thing with Woody Marks. I already kind of said that I was, so I don't think it's crazy, but he's an
let me ask
interesting
you,
one.
Gretch,
He's not
how
Woody
how
Marks
much
from a
of this
profile perspective?
how much of the take with this is best ball versus manage? And I guess in either direction, I would say for manage, like how likely are you going to write out lots of zeros from a guy like Trevor Etienne? And then in best ball, how willing are you to take on that zero risk now? I have like the queue loaded here with all these late round rookies we've talked about. And I think we all want to draft these guys if we get the green light that they're the RB2 or have like a smidge of standalone value. But we're also all terrified that a guy like Jacory Krosky-Barrett could just be a stone cold zero throughout the year. So like, how do you think about that element of liking the profile, but being realistic about the path to production?
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming across like I'm super into ETN, and like I said, I'm not. And if I haven't drafted a ton of best balls here, I haven't made the infamous trips to Oregon yet at all because it's just been a busy spring and early summer with the family and stuff. So, it would be telling if I was actually doing a lot of that, and I would probably bet that I wouldn't be taking a whole lot of ETN because, as I mentioned, a lot of these other names are, I think, in a lot better situations. I really like the Hunter and Dylan Sampson situations. I think Devin Neal's in a really interesting situation. I think Taj Brooks is in a really interesting situation. You mentioned Giddens, Rashad Smith. I mean, I think you got to be drafting a couple of these guys on almost every team, but there is a real zero risk with those running backs as well. And I get that part of it too. But I guess I'm just making the case that somebody should probably be drafting him, even if it's not necessary. But when you make as it relates to best ball versus manage, when you make that point, especially if I'm in a deeper managed league, I'm absolutely like, if I'm going somewhere where those other guys start to get off the board and I'm still drafting, I'm absolutely targeting ETN and managed. I'm if I have the roster space, I'm holding him as long as I can. And you want to see if he has any kind of an early role. I think he very well could. I think he could have a really good August as a 21-year-old rookie whose numbers were nitpicking at really young ages in college that aren't bad. They're just okay. He could have a really good August and you're like, man, actually this guy's going to play a lot. Like this is absolutely a dude that could have an October role to me. So in managed, where I'm less concerned about the zero risk and some of the structural stuff, yeah, I'm taking that risk all the time. I mean, it doesn't mean that he's my favorite of the group either, but very clear late round managed pick where, yeah, you're okay making that cut.
I agree with that. Well. I think he's better in managed for sure. With a lot of these guys, I'm kind of like right now in best ball, it's like hold. we're eventually, when we know who to target, we're going hard after those targets. But there's a lot of guys here, and I'm not sure. Like Ollie Gordon, not really drafting a ton right now. Devin Neal, not really drafting a ton right now. Kyle Monungai, not really drafting a ton right now. Taj Brooks, actually, I'm starting to because it looks like he's ahead of Moss, and he's like a very different profile than P. Ryan. And so I think would probably be like he'd probably have some
Moss is getting
value.
Cut.
Moss is going to get cut, yeah. So he's I don't know if he's the number 2, but he's sort of the number 2B at worst. So I'm kind of in, but that's like the type of stuff that Rashard Smith I'm starting to draft because the upside's so high and it seems like he's going to make the team as a kick returner. So Jordan James. I would be into Jordan James I would be very into Jordan James if he passes Garindo as the number 2. As the number 3, So I'm just like waiting.
No, by the way, I was hoping we'd get to Jordan James because I've been workshopping a take there.
All right, go ahead.
Well, just like I think basically you should just plan on taking one of Garindo or James every time right now. Manage, best ball, redraft, dynasty, whatever. Because like the what do you win when you win is so freaking good. I mean, we literally saw it last year, right? You'd have been happy with Mason at this Guerrero price last year, and you'd have been really happy with Guerrero at the James price. So it just doesn't matter. Like, and I don't even have strong opinions about Jordan James as a prospect, really. But I think we're done with the Izzy Abanikanda, Patrick Taylor Jr.,
Right.
Corey Kiner. Corey Kiner. I mean, who knows? It could be Corey Kiner at the end of the day.
James is such an interesting guy because, like I was talking about, how I like guys who have like a way to distinguish themselves, and he does. He was super, super consistent, highest success rate in the class, and like all the film guys, like the guys that really liked him loved him. Just like, hey man,
Didn't
you want like
Brugler have him like
6 yards,
top
7 yards?
75 or something?
Brugler loved him. Yeah, he really loved him because he's really consistent, and he's a chunk play runner. He also has an incredibly low breakaway percentage. He has no top gear at all. So, and then he's going against Guerrero, who's like, all top gear. That's like his whole thing. So it'll be really interesting to see who wins there. I don't hate that take. I mean, certainly for manage, Guerrero actually I think is more interesting for manage, but I worry about him in best ball because he's not that cheap and he might not be the backup. So yeah, maybe I should take more James. I don't know.
It's so funny. I had Zach make us these slides, and I mean, our conversation broke the slide because I guess we just hit on Taj Brooks and Jordan James here so we could get that up, but we're talking off the slide with these guys, which just speak to how deep this rookie running back class is. And I think the macro point is there's a lot more talent at the end of these drafts than there are in normal years for this rookie class. And there's probably going to be some really intriguing winners here. And it's just our job to figure out the tea leaves and see which direction the wind is blowing for some of these guys.
Yeah. It's interesting if you go back to the underdog list that you had pulled up, there's some names there and including that group there, but Jordan James is one that I'm wrong on, but I'm not super into. I think Isaac Guerrero had the better profile and then also had a good rookie year, and Jordan James particularly had a rough year last year, if I'm not mistaken, in his final season. Like his yards after contact per attempt went down like a full yard. His receiving stuff is just like is not good. It's just kind of okay. The other issue I have with that, I have a take on the Shanahan and sort of Miami with Mike McDaniel backfields that they don't really actually throw to their running backs unless they want to get the ball to that particular running back. Prior to CMC, they didn't throw to the running backs ever. They threw a juice check a little bit. So if you look at running back target shares, you'll see it's inflated by fullback targets actually. If he's classified as a fullback in the data set you're looking at, but Elijah Mitchell didn't get a lot of targets the year that he was the main dude, and other guys that have, when they've been the main dude, have not gotten a lot of targets under Shanahan. Mostert didn't get a lot in Miami when he was the main dude. Jeff Wilson did not. And then when Etienne really came on, they used Etienne specifically on like the edge, wide receiver screens, basically. And so him and then McCaffrey, when McCaffrey came over, are the only dudes in recent years have gotten a lot of running back target share. I actually think McCaffrey goes down, that the San Fran running backs won't get a ton of targets. We saw it with Jordan Mason. He basically didn't get any, right?
Guerrero did, though, which is interesting.
Right. I think it's a unique Guerrero thing, and I don't think it would last for Jordan James, is my argument. I think Guerendo's interesting late. I don't think Jordan James is.
Wouldn't you be fine with Jordan James kind of splitting work with Kyle Juszczyk? Isn't that probably fine in the context of
I don't think he's Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason had a low-key good profile, too. It's probably a little bit more of a talent take, and I was questioning your guys' talent takes on Etienne, so it's interesting. I mean, this is why I like having this.
I think Jordan James is an underrated runner.
Okay.
I think he's like a frustrating runner because he's not going to hit any home runs at all, but kind of in that Kyron-y mold where he's just very consistent. You can kind of count on him. And honestly, when I think about who Kyle Shanahan is, if you give him a choice between consistency and explosiveness, I think he might take consistency, and that's the choice he has.
If the two things you say is that he can't hit on long runs, and your best comp is Kyron Williams, who we all pretty much agree is a terrible rusher that is just valuable in fantasy.
He's not terrible. He's not. He's good enough to take on an entire backfield for multiple seasons. He's not good enough to be the legendary, hero running back that he should be with that type of workload. But his numbers aren't terrible. They're
People drafted. People
level.
didn't want to draft him last year, and then his rushing was way worse last year than even.
It was worse last year, but it's still pretty middle.
I mean, I was actually kind of in on him last year at cost.
Yeah,
but the thing was
he just felt very fragile to me. But part of that was the Corum pick, and it turns out Corum's not very good. So,
Yeah. Anyway, I just those comps are not thrilling for me when you're like, yeah, he can't hit long runs. He's a success rate guy. Like you tend to like the success rate guys a lot more than me. Like I remember that made me the way you described that also made me think of Brian Robinson, who you were really into, and I was like, I still don't have any reason to draft Brian Robinson. See, you're perking up. I don't feel like I ever
Brian
missed
Robinson
on
has
Brian
been
Robinson.
a big hit the last couple of years. I mean, again, I'm thinking more best ball stuff, but Brian Robinson has been a legitimately strong pick over the past few seasons. And I would say when I think about it, Jordan James, how I use that type of bet, it is very much best ball. It's not dynasty. In dynasty, I don't really have much interest in James because I don't think there's a ton of he's not going to take over. I mean, Kyron did it.
They're going to draft another running back next year that'll replace.
Yeah, they're going to draft another guy. You're hoping he's Jordan Mason. You're really hoping he's Jordan Mason.
But Jordan Mason had a low key really good profile. Jordan Mason's probably a really good runner. He's pretty sweet. He was good in college.
His numbers were awesome last year.
I think Jordan James is probably a pretty good runner. 58 missed tackles forced last year. His yards after contact went down. I think probably because he was being asked to do more interior rushing because Bucky was gone. I actually don't expect a ton from him as a receiver. 0.95 yards per route run. Whatever, but I don't think you can really ask for more in this situation. He also did a bunch of this is very inside baseball type stuff, but the Shanahan stuff is zone running, which is also what they run at Oregon. He had one of the very few prospects you'll see with the same amount of zone and gap rushes, the way PFF grades it. So he kind of has the one cut thing, which actually they say. Right, remember that was the Dameon Pierce thing. Is he doesn't get the zone rushing scheme, and that was why they decided to move on from him. Frankly, I expect Jordan James if he has to come in to just be Jordan Mason. I agree with you that Jordan Mason is a good rusher and better, is provably better than Jordan James. But I would think James would come in. You'd be right about the receiving stuff that is very McCaffrey specific. In fact, Garendo's best reception, by the way, he fell down, which is just very funny that he fell down on his 40-yard touchdown. But James, I think, is really just has to beat out Israel Abanikanda to be the running back 3 on the most fantasy-friendly offense in football. I think he's pretty strong.
Well, isn't it kind of funny as we talk about all these Niners running backs? They don't really have a type. I mean, Garendo was the athletic Raz freak, the most explosive back, but not your success rate guy, the one you could trust on it. It was no, this is going to be the guy that makes one cut and hits the home run. And then we're talking about Jordan James. CMC is his own unicorn. Mason's a little bit of a different archetype. It's crazy how many types of running backs they've taken cracks on.
I mean, they all even Joe Williams and all these other guys that not even Shanahan tree guys, but just Shanahan himself. I feel like they feel like they just watched the film. It's like Shanahan just watches a guy and it's oh man, I can just see him in my scheme. Cause they don't have any it's not like the Packers where the Packers are so big on what's the word I'm looking for? Not parameters.
Oh, thresholds.
Thresholds. Yeah. There we go. I feel like the 49ers have none of that. It's all ball knowing.
Pete, to your point, I just pulled up the percentiles. I mentioned Jordan James, really good success rate. He's 99th percentile success rate, but 0th percentile in breakaway percentage. He must have the lowest breakaway percentage of any running back in this database.
18.4% last year
on Oregon
for his career.
on a team that is has a more talented offense than every team they play. They have so much talent at receiver. They have offensive linemen. They have quarterbacks that are winning, awards, and you can't break away. Isaiah Pacheco gets all these long runs because everyone's worried about Patrick Mahomes, and everyone thinks Isaiah Pacheco's way better than he actually is at football because of the way that teams defend them. Jordan James can't get a breakaway run on freaking Oregon. Are you kidding me? That's absurd.
It's fair. It's honestly quite fair. Garendo, meanwhile, was 14th percentile in success rate and 85th percentile in breakaway percentage. So he's the literal exact.
We were one Jawar Jordan collegiate injury away from never knowing who Isaac Garendo was. Isaac Garendo was a 4-year player at Wisconsin behind Braylon Allen and Ches Malusi, and transferred to Louisville as a backup. Played behind Jawar Jordan, who couldn't make the Texans. Jawar Jordan got injured, put enough of tape on basically for him to be a 7th round pick. Like it to some degree with the running backs, we are also kind of kidding ourselves. Like it's important to have opinions and priors and like who can succeed where. But to Gretch's Etienne point, a good bit of it is, did the coaches just decide to give him the ball?
Yeah.
Right.
At the end of the
I
day.
was really wrong on Kyron Williams doing this exact same thing the rookie year, where the takes on Kyron Williams, you go back, but all the way back, or I guess the sophomore year, because you go back that far, Pat, I'm pretty sure you were the one talking about him favorably, and I was like, no, he just can't play. His profile is that bad. He can't play. And then you're like, well, actually, like, there's so much that goes into how guys actually put up stats at the NFL level. And I'm not saying that means you draft bad players, because that's an issue too.
My big thing with this whole group is, like I was saying before, that I kind of want to just see how stuff starts to shake out. And then I don't want to get too worked up about the overall, like, this guy is graded at this talent level for me. I instead want to be thinking about this more of the specifics of the profile and like what the opportunity in front of them might be. Like you asked about Woody Marks earlier, brought him up. He was a guy that I was actually drafting a shocking amount of before they signed Chubb. And now that they did sign Chubb, I'm completely out.
Completely out. Yeah.
And I have, but it's just like, hey, he's the backup, I guess, and catches passes. So I think he
caught like 260 balls in college, which is just an 80 catch season under Mike Leach at Mississippi State. Like, just absurd for a running back.
And who knows? Maybe he'll still hit. But I have my Woody bags packed. And, I was taking him in the 17th, 18th round. It's not like I ever got crazy, but I was thinking he was a pretty good pick then, and now I don't because Chubb's there and he's not a very good prospect. But you go to some of these other guys like a Kyle Monangai. I can pick a million holes in Kyle Monangai's profile, but he was a consistent runner.
Monangai is the most. It doesn't matter if the coaches just decide they're sick of DeAndre Swift. Like, it does not.
You want to talk about a Brian
all.
Robinson?
Yes.
A potential Brian Robinson here. He could be a Brian Robinson who you're getting completely free.
Well, I'm okay with Brian Robinson in the last round, I guess, but I don't know. Brian, I just looked at his stats. Do you know Brian Robinson's never run for 800 yards in a season? This is your consistent runner, like, hero.
He got shot as a rookie. He got shot. He came back from getting shot. Come on.
So does this mean that Ricky Pearsall gets another year of underperforming because we could say he got shot as a rookie?
His whole ADP is based on him getting shot.
He's played 3 years and he hasn't hit 800 rushing yards, and his whole thing is, well, he runs. His success rate's really good. But my point is, I like the long runs because then you get 800 rushing yards. If you run for a long ways, you get lots of yards, and then you break 800 over the season.
I am not drafting much Brian Robinson right now. To me, it's about, like, if you get these dudes who have some holes in their profile, but they do some things well, and the things they do well are pretty valued by coaches consistently, and you're going to give those guys to me in the 120s or later, then I'm down. In best ball, where I don't get to sub dudes out every time they do hit a long run, which Brian Robinson has done occasionally, and he actually catches some long passes weirdly. You get those points in your roster. I don't got to predict it. It just shows up. So that's more like where I actually do think Brian Robinson is an archetype to chase at a certain price, because they tend to get undervalued because they don't have that, like, in 2 years he'll be a first round pick. There's no way in 2 years this guy will be a first round pick.
And it's probably more viable in best ball, particularly if the rule's there. But that's the other part of the Brian Robinson thing where, like, if you're saying Jordan James is like Brian Robinson in a good scenario, I'm like, I don't want to bet on the thing where if it breaks right, that's all I get. I want to bet on the thing where if it breaks right, I get
Okay, but if Brian
meaningful-
Robinson Jr. was on the 49ers, wouldn't he just score like 16.4 points per game?
Yeah, like
I don't
Jordan
think
Mason.
so.
You're describing Jordan Mason, really.
You're describing Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason actually had an explosive play rate.
Brian Robinson had a game with 2 50-yard receiving touchdowns.
What was Jordan Mason's big explosive play rate as a prospect, Pat? Do you have that?
I don't think I have him because he went undrafted. I don't think I ever added him. Let me see.
He also went to
Jordan Mason was undrafted. Wow.
He also went to Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
What's his ACC? He should be in there. ACC team should be in the database.
Yeah, no, he's in here.
His breakaway rate, 37%, 124 missed tackles force on 452 rushes, 3.66 yards after contact average.
What's that from? When he was a prospect? What year?
Yeah, that's his career averages
In the pros or in the college?
in college. At
No,
Georgia
wait.
Tech.
Sorry, I didn't hear the numbers. Was it good? I don't even have a great reference point.
That is just like the most like create a prospect style stuff. Like it's just like very like
37%.
So it wasn't 0th percentile, is what you're saying.
It wasn't 0th percentile. That's right, but actually not very good. Let me see. 30. I mean, it's not.
Pat, by the way,
37%.
you were on the wrong mic input
AJ Dillon.
and have been for an hour.
Yeah,
Me?
I was gonna say something.
No, Pat is.
Pat.
Oh,
Yeah, you're
well,
on
thanks for
some.
telling me right away.
Thanks for telling me right away. The audio file's
did tell-
not
I
happy
did-
about not hearing this until 45 minutes in.
I did.
We're 45 minutes in. My God,
You
we've
did
only
tell
talked
me.
about shitty players.
Gretch, how about
little
to somewhat put a bow on this? Like these deep flyers. Let's say after pick 190, if you had to have 100% exposure to one of these guys, who would you pick?
Probably Jarquez Hunter.
Okay.
Well, actually, I really like this whole graphic. So probably Dylan Sampson's another one that I really, really like. Giddens is tougher for me because I do think it's more handcuff related, and I don't think you need to have 100% exposure to that type of play. And I do think Brashard Smith's path is a little thinner than most everybody else. Pat, you just spoke favorably about him. Sean's in love with him.
I think it's a little thinner. Starting running back Brashard Smith, brother.
Week one starting running back.
Rookies.
You were just talking about Travis Etienne being too small. They're famous. Not a big dude.
That does not
big enough,
matter.
man.
That does
You guys
not
just
matter,
pretend like
Andy Reid.
Kareem Hunt doesn't exist. By the way, they re-signed him this offseason. They
For how much
decided
money,
they wanted
Gretch?
more.
I'm
We have him
Swan.
ranked.
I'm
We
Swan
have him
meme
ranked,
yelling
Gretch.
right now. For how much money?
If they didn't have to pay any money, they got him for free mid-season
Okay.
last
How
year.
much did they pay Eli Mitchell? And at what point in free agency did Eli Mitchell sign?
You're making my point for me. They've brought in multiple
No, I'm not. I'm
veterans
making
this
the reverse
offseason.
of your point.
Making the reverse.
Please elaborate.
They paid Eli Mitchell Eli Mitchell is $3.5 million. It's the same contract as Nick Chubb. It was the first free agency signing the team made. Kareem Hunt waited another month and a half. Probably they were just trying to decide if they even
Because he's
wanted
like
to
10
pay
years
him.
older.
He's making the veteran minimum. He's making the least that they can pay him with his amount of service time.
Well,
He has
if you do-
850,000 fully guaranteed. That's not getting them cut.
My guess is that they would really like it to be Eli Mitchell and not Kareem Hunt. Well, frankly, they would like it to be Isaiah Pacheco. They're going to get these guys in a training camp and they're going to see what state their bodies are in. Kareem Hunt is the guess we're doing this shit again option, right? That is how they view it.
It feels Jerick McKinney.
Nearly $1 million in guaranteed money. Like somebody earlier, when I mentioned Zach Moss is getting cut in the chat, said they restructured Moss to keep him. They restructured him, gave him a little bit more guaranteed money, but my understanding was that also made it easier to release him, if not like in camp. Like his per game stuff is a lot lower. It made him a little bit easier to like I think because there's like injury related clauses or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it gave him a little more guaranteed money. But my understanding was that it made him easier to release. My point is, I went and looked. He's only getting 375,000 fully guaranteed. That restructure that makes him uncuttable to that one commenter. And like with running backs, anything over like 500,000 fully guaranteed, they don't just give that out, dude, because that's easy to you can get dudes on non-guaranteed contracts at running back, is my point. They did not give Kareem Hunt $850,000 fully guaranteed to cut, like with the intention of cutting him. I think that's crazy.
No, I don't think their intention.
I don't think that's a good move.
Their intention is not to cut him, but I think that their intention is for him to be an emergency play. I mean, frankly, the thing they would like is they just like Pacheco to be healthy again. And then I think they would
I think you're going to have Pacheco and Hunt and Elijah Mitchell and then Brashard Smith as the fourth running back. They're going to cut Carson Steele. They're going to cut these other. They don't have any other running back. They have a UDFA.
That might be true. There was some speculation from
Brashard Smith, really good kick returner.
Only keep 3.
Yes.
Really good kick, like a really good kick returner.
Really good kick returner, and they moved the kickoff return thing up to the 35 this year. And I think part of the reason they drafted him is he'll be back there with Nico Remigio. I think most teams are going to have 2 kick returners back. Way more teams are going to return kicks. I think that plays into some of these picks in ways that I don't think people have thought through enough this year. And Brashard Smith, I think, is going to play on special teams to start.
I want to take Brashard Smith in every draft. I'm just waiting a little bit until we get like I just want to make sure he makes a team. Because what you're saying about you couldn't find the tweet. We couldn't find it,
but it's out there. He's making the team.
You find the tweet, and I'll take him.
Twitter search doesn't work. You know it doesn't.
What Brashard
it's
Smith
is such widely proliferated news that we have to find the single one tweet that references it.
Okay, but time out. Is the tweet that Brashard Smith's making the team for kick returning?
Yes.
Okay, I got 2 points on that. One, you know who Nico Remigio is, right?
The greatest special teams player of all time per special teams coordinator Dave Topp.
Yeah, he had a dominant postseason run as well as a returner. He was freaking awesome. I think he's probably the second best returner in the league behind Kevontae Turpin. I think they'll use Brashard Smith too, but I do think that's a little overplayed. 2, the idea that he's making the team as a kick returner, we said that was as a huge favorable thing for Pacheco as a rookie, and that would seem favorable. But I think I would float that in this depth chart, it's actually kind of a negative because I do think teams were specifically targeting kick returners this year in a way that they haven't always done that because of the rule change. It's the thing where they went to the 30 with the touchback, but now they're going to the 35. Everyone pretty universally agreed when that was announced during the competition committee stuff that it's going to lead to way more returns. Returns are going to be last year was the modified kickoff test period, and there was still kind of a high number of touchbacks. I think they're like some teams started.
Why is that bad
Deebo Samuel?
Brashard Smith.
Because they have 3 other veterans that are on the team, and I think being in that role will actually, in some ways, negatively impact his ability to get onto the field.
He's saying that it's like a specialized role, so like you're on the team as a kick returner. Like how
I'm not saying that specifically, but I think as a rookie,
probably be inactive.
As a rookie, you're going to spend more time practicing and in special teams meetings than you are learning the running back stuff.
Yeah, no,
I
think that's
with
fair.
3 veterans.
He's a 7th round pick. I just am like, please make the team, bro. Like that's it. If you make the team as a kick returner and it takes you a while to contribute, but then you ultimately you're active every week and that helps you get, maybe there's an in-game injury and like Eli Mitchell isn't there. He's not active, or Kareem Hunt isn't, whatever. And then he gets a little run, looks good. I'm into that.
I'm going to make a point that should be like a priori for all of this, which is none of it matters if Pacheco's healthy. If Pacheco shows up to camp, leg injury, thing of the past, he's totally whatever.
It still matters who's the 2.
I don't agree either.
Yeah,
it still matters.
I want to know.
Pacheco was never that good.
Is on the Chiefs.
Pacheco will be the starting running back if he's healthy, though, and return to the same role that he was in.
It doesn't matter who's starting week 1. That's not how fantasy football's played.
He'll be starting week 17 if he's healthy too. They're not bench. They're not. Pacheco has been like a totally fine running back for the Chiefs. They're not benching him for Kareem Hunt.
I don't think they're going to bench him for Kareem Hunt.
I think I don't know if it's not that binary with Pacheco, right? Like we saw him last year not look good in a way that threatened that role.
Yeah, this Davis take
healthy.
He's saying it's the certainty, and I think it's like the 25% that Pacheco goes back to the guy he was before we saw him return and not be healthy.
He's that guy.
This is probably it for Pacheco. This is a former 7th round pick who probably already had his peak.
It's definitely it for him. This will be the last year that is true. I agree with that.
Okay. Because then
the end of the year means he could be
assuming
they can move on.
Yeah.
They could. I mean, don't get me wrong. I believe Brashard Smith is my most drafted running back, but like I am.
You have 9%.
No, everyone's asking about the suit. The suit is that Davis is now taking 10% of.
It's time. It's time for a vibe. It's time for a vibe shift. It's time for a vibe.
Someone had a comment earlier that it's now Dave Maddock with the suit.
Dave Maddock. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Pleasure doing business with you.
So Dave,
you look like you work at a funeral home. I'm just gonna be honest.
I think used car salesman's more accurate with the mustache.
And then you guys told me you
nice
drafted
for
Alvin
used car.
Kamara, and I was like, so this is a funeral home for the FFP.
You do. You look like you, but you sell like high-end coffins. Like you want like the really good coffin.
Davis looks like he's at the bar after working a full shift at the funeral home. He's like, let me unbutton this top one.
That's right.
Let me fucking relax. Davis,
kick back.
so who is now that you're a new man, or sorry, Dave, now that you're a new man, who is the first player you are going to start boosting those exposure numbers to?
Number one thing I'm going to do is stop taking Roschon Johnson. Every time
Your
I check
number one
exposures-
thing to get more heavy on exposures is to stop taking a player? Sounds like
Just
you're
like-
just old Davis Maddock again.
I just can't. I can't open up my exposures tab one more time and see 22% Roschon Johnson.
You got to think through this bit. If the whole bit is that you're going to start drafting a bunch of players above, and your number one example is a player you're not going to draft, we need to reworkshop this bit.
I want to ask
I mean,
Pat about one more
two and
specific
two.
rookie.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry. What do you think about Jaydon Blue's receiving? It's really, really good.
I was hoping we'd get to Jaydon Blue.
That's the other one. Yeah, Blue. I'm not in on Blue, and I know Sean loves him. I'm not. No, and
yeah, he has the
really
worst
as a
Jaydon
receiver.
Blue opinion on the market. Currently,
Does Sean love him?
Sean loves him. At least he's got him ranked really high.
Okay. When I first talked to Sean, he wasn't super into Blue, and I was kind of more. I was pitching him on Blue like right after the draft. Davis, who has the worst Blue opinion? Pat or
Crane.
Sean?
No, Pat and
Crane.
Pat and Jacob have really bad Jaydon.
No,
Blue
Jacob
opinions.
has a very nuanced. He's kind of middling our two opinions.
I like
Terrible.
how you were agreeing to his premise that your take is bad. You're like, but Jacob
I am.
actually
Yeah,
really
I am agreeing.
nuanced.
But Jacob's take.
That's great.
Yeah.
I am.
Well,
I don't
let me
like
defend
my-
Jacob's take.
I will. I'll defend Jacob's take because Jacob is kind of in on Blue, and my take sucks because I'm out on Blue, and I don't want to be out on Blue. I think it would be fun to play the Dallas running back depth chart through the exciting rookie who catches passes. But
Who are you playing it through? Because you told me Miles Sanders is really
Miles
not a
Sanders. I'm playing it through Miles Sanders.
I thought you were going to say Javonte, which was wrong.
No.
But Miles Sanders, I could actually get behind a little bit because at least he has two knees.
He has two knees, and he's the cheapest. He's the cheapest,
Miles
unless you want to
Sanders
count Phil Maffa.
becoming a slappy player is just like, it's truly one of the most preposterous storylines a best ball summer could ever have. That like the same people with 32% of Travis Hunter are also like, dude, I can't wait to smash the button on round 16 Miles Sanders. It's crazy. Jaydon Blue, Jaydon Blue should be the slappy player.
Yeah,
But he's so expensive.
He was the sloppy player. That's why he's so expensive.
Yeah.
He couldn't have gotten to this ADP without getting slapped up.
145 is expensive for the guy.
It's expensive to me in best ball, man.
Relative to Miles Sanders, yeah.
That is a pick. That is a pick where you were counting on something from it. You know, like, and he could. They're talking up Kevontae Turpin in the exact role that he's supposed to play.
It's just like that is classic June talk. Kevontae Turpin as a rusher
isn't classic June talk that Jaydon Blue's going to be playing out of the slot? That would be classic June talk.
Kevontae Turpin played that role last year.
Right.
And he's
so they're
good.
talking about something that was in the offense
240
last
career
year.
rushing yards.
Because they had to use Hunter Lipke in that role for a while. And then they're like, we're just using a white fullback in this role because
Our alternatives are Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott. I know Rico Dowdle's the greatest running back that ever lived, Pat, but I mean, they're using Hunter Lepke over him in this role. And then they finally were like, all right, Kevontae Turpin has some explosiveness. We're going to use him out of the backfield. And then they went out and drafted this dude. And they're like, this is our in-state player. And he runs a 4.2. And this is obviously what he's going to do. He had like 6 receiving touchdowns last year. He's an explosive receiving back.
I stand with Gretch.
He's a decent enough receiving back. He had 1.59 yards per hour, I believe, which is kind of in that. It's like the James Cook zone, which is good. It's not like, oh my God, this guy is electric. He had a pretty bad breakaway percentage. Not terrible, but that 37% where you're like, he's the 4.2 speed didn't show up as a runner. He didn't get any work really. His any per game stuff he looks absolutely trash in. Because he never really got
back and forth.
Used.
He has games where he has like 20 carries, and then he has games where he has no carries. His game log's freaking weird.
All right, can I just make a potentially bad point here? But like, I don't even know if you can even make anything of Jaydon Blue's collegiate rushing numbers because he had like the sample size of like 120 rushes over 3 years. It's like. How could it's nothing? Anything could happen over 120 carries.
I mean, but the fact that there were only 120 carries tells you a lot. Like that's one thing right there. You know.
Look, I fully grant that Jaydon Blue is like not a good quote unquote running back. I made this comp to you on ADP.
Go there. You were doing so well.
No. Wait, I'm gonna get you back.
Ally.
Gretch,
I'm
gonna get you back. I'm gonna get you back so strong here. Jaydon Blue is like if Raheem Mostert got a chance on a wide open depth chart as a rookie. Raheem Mostert was a track star at Purdue who never really started and bounced around forever because the NFL prioritized different things at running back then. But I think the NFL very clearly, and I think the Cowboys very clearly, like, why would you take Blue where they took him despite him not being a great quote unquote running back? It's because the dude ran a 4.28 40 at his pro day, and they were like, yeah, we got Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. Maybe we should try and get a guy like he's the only guy in the whole team who runs the ball who has an elite skill set. Well, an elite skill.
Yeah, I don't think he has an elite skill. I mean, I guess you could say the speed is a skill,
He
but
definitely
I think
has an elite skill. He's also a good pass catcher.
He's a good pass catcher, yeah. I don't. What's the skill? Just that he's fast? Is being fast a skill?
The skill, he's just like he's Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson who never broke his leg.
So he always.
I think that overstates the receiving a little.
He always in the college football semifinal against national champion Ohio State, he went 5 for 52 and 2 TDs receiving. I mean, that's good.
Yeah, he's solid. His like comps here, he does get Hines. Hines is his closest comp, and that's what you're open for. Jason Huntley, Tyler Bidet. I mean, maybe Bidet is something. I don't know. He looked kind of good last year before he got hurt. So
he had a TD catch against Michigan, against Georgia, against Texas A&M, at Texas A&M, and 2 against Ohio State, as well as 1 against Louisiana Monroe in a game where he had 3 rushing TDs. I mean, they played a weak-ass team, but he got more work, and he had a 4-touchdown game. 25-carry game, 4 TDs, 124 rushing yards. Like, his game log is actually kind of fun when you look through it, and then you're like, you see some of the games where they just didn't use him at all. And I don't know why, other than they had other good players. But I'm with Davis on that thing where it's like, I do think it's a little bit of a mystery box. We don't really know what he is because they didn't really have to use him a lot. He was behind Bijan as a true freshman, Jonathan Brooks as a sophomore. Last year, he should have probably been used more, and the fact that he didn't is a little bit of a concern.
Well, it's even more bearish because he wouldn't have even gotten used this final year because the only reason he played is that CJ Baxter tore his ACL and the running back 3 tore his Achilles in spring ball. So not great.
Davis, you're not doing great for our cause here.
it's Davis and Dave just battling each other.
No, I'm just being real about it. I'm not trying to pretend like Blue is something he's not. It is a I mean, first off, it is a great bet against Javonte, who I think is like this is like Leonard Fournette on the Bills to me. Like Javonte is like cooked. And I think that even the Cowboys, who were trying to make Zeke a thing will realize Javonte is cooked early on. And Miles Sanders is also just like nothing. Also, like he's just like a 30th percentile NFL running back. There's like a really strong chance that Jaydon Blue gets like 4 carries week 1 and gains 42 yards, and the coaching staff watches the film back and they're like, okay, yeah, this guy is just clearly better.
I mean,
like he's a lot closer in price to a Bashal Tootin than, like he's less than 20 picks away from Bashal Tootin now. Compared to the guys we've been talking about. So like with Etienne, he's completely free. I'm worried about the zero risk managed league.
There's no starting running back on his team. That's why he's closer. There's no
starting running back. I guess, but to the extent
projections still matter to some degree. Like we've gotten to such a like profile as
what
a
can you
fantasy
project
industry?
this guy for? Like the quotes out of camp are that it's like clearly Javonte and Miles Sanders with it. Like when they talk about these guys, they mention him in the same breath constantly as Phil Maffa. Like I pull up quote, Jaydon Blue and Phil Maffa have a lot to learn, in a good way from Brian Schottenheimer earlier this month. He talks about first Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders being pretty clearly ahead. So it's like the projection element is actually kind of what I'm thinking about, is that I think we're over our skis on projecting work for him. I'm not sure that he's earned that yet.
When I say that, I'm not talking about Blue's projection. I'm talking about how hard it is to give volume for a full season to Javonte and Miles Sanders. It's not hard for me. Even like the Trevor Etienne thing, I was kind of making this case that the depth chart's not strong, but it's not hard for me to give a lot of touches to Chuba Hubbard because we've seen that. We saw it in college. These guys are like, he's really good.
For sure.
Especially you start talking about like Tootin. I can give Travis Etienne a lot of work. He got hurt last year. No one's even talking about the fact that he played injured a ton. He had 1,400 yards back-to-back years, the 2 years prior, and they have Bigsby. And I've taken Tootin on both the main events I've done so far. I love Bashal Tootin, but like we act like he doesn't have a path. What was that?
Oh, sorry, Davis. I see where we're headed here, and
I don't know why my emoji thing is up. I can't get that to go. There we go.
But
I think I solved it. I think I've solved the situation.
I know that Pete was trying to kind of bring us to a little bit of a wrap around. Wrap this up a little. And I guess the way that I one of the things I want to do before we wrap up the rookie running back conversation, because I haven't jumped on with you guys in a while, is to say that in part, we talked a lot about Trevor Etienne. Most of the guys we talked about today are guys that are a little more fringy, but because I was curious about those mostly. But if you asked me, Pete, you were trying to ask me on that one slide, like who are some of the guys I really liked. If you ask me the guys I'm in on, and I think we probably all really agree on, like Tootin and Scattaboo, yes. Hunter, Dylan Sampson, yes. I like Blue a lot. I'm in on him. I think the Devin Neal path is really straightforward. This guy had over 1,000 rushing yards in 3 straight seasons, had over 20 catches in the last 3 years as well. Like he's another one of these guys that doesn't do anything amazingly well, but is a do everything back, has some size, catches the ball, runs. His
sounds kind of like Brian Robinson, Gretch.
No, he catches the ball. He's a more of a 3-down guy that can do. He's not just a success rate guy. And I think the Kamara, betting against Kamara thing is Kamara's going to be good again, but he's really pricey, and I don't mind playing it a different way. I'm not super concerned about Cam Akers or CEH or those guys. So I think Neal's an interesting one. I do like betting on. I mentioned Taj Brooks. The other ones are all, to me, tougher, including Etienne, including Brashard Smith, who I like and I want to be more in on than I kind of am, including Pat DJ Giddens. I know you're really in on him. I got a chance to talk with Sack a little bit, and he said he's really in on him. I like Giddens a lot. I am afraid that Giddens is not going to play as much as you guys think. He's going to be one of those risky zeros. His price is pretty high, too. His price is not that far from Blue, is it? Oh, no, it's 191 right now?
No, it's pretty far off. It's like 50 picks. Yeah.
Okay.
He's there in 17th, 18th round.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just he's an underpriced contingent bet, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I think it is? Is that for the best ball stuff, it's I think his floor is kind of higher than a lot of these guys. Because it's who is the number 2 if not Giddens? And the bar that I need, the talent level that I need him to be is not that high to be the number 2. Where some of these guys where they're competing with other dudes just to be the number 2, you have the floor of literally being a 0 because you didn't win the number 2 job and you don't play. Where at least with Giddens, he could be a 0 because Taylor might leave very little for his backup, but you would have the theoretical upside of like, in the event of an injury, I have the starting running back for the Colts, and that's going to be true all season.
Yeah. And he's got the profile to do it, the 3-down profile. Someone in the chat says kneeling Dallas, Jacksonville is a 0 RB path. I think that's true of Jacksonville. I think there's definitely scenarios where Dallas is just not good, which is
They're
kind of
just
what-
there's this year's Denver where there's just a bunch of like empty gross touches and no one does anything.
Yeah.
worthwhile.
Lipke might not go away, by the way.
Yeah.
You know,
Lipke and Turpin are combining
Lipke
for
and Turpin,
42
man.
rushes, probably.
That's a part of the take for me with Blue is that I don't want to have to pay for any of them, and Sanders is literally free and appears to be ahead of Blue right now. So I'm just like, whatever, I'll take it.
You're gonna get to this point in August, and I'm just gonna Sherpa you along there. It's gonna happen.
I would like to. I would like to get there. I would.
Jaydon Blue's 4.2840 is staring at you like the freaking Green Goblin mask, dude. Just trust me, it's gonna happen.
I'm very willing. If there's opportunity, if things start to shift, the winds shift, and I have a thing that I can grab onto, like a 4.2840, I'll grab onto it. I'll just say 4.2840. I'm not overthinking it. It looks like he has a path to playing time. Right now, at this price, I think we're overestimating what that path to playing time looks like compared to the available options around him.
And that is the
You
available
asked me-
options. Isaac Arendo goes right after him. Tyler Algier, guys who you firmly know their role, you firmly know their contingent upside. And I think to Pat's point, I still have Kamani Vidal PTSD from last year, where the same thing where it just looks so obvious that he was the guy that was going to take over this backfield with 2 other dust balls and then wasn't even relevant whatsoever. And that's within the range of outcomes. So is the high end stuff. But the Kamani Vidal is definitely
when you say a guy
range,
like Algier, though, like Bijan Robinson, last year, my whole case on Bijan was that the Rams offense the Rams coordinator was going to come over, run kind of a Rams offense and really consolidate volume. And he did. I still think Algier is really interesting. But when I did my Falcons projection, Bijan Robinson, his market share and stuff from last year, looking into the numbers, he's going to get a lot of work. He's clearly the receiving back. I think Algier had 13 catches or targets even. And no other back on the roster had 1. And Bijan had like 70, whatever, 80 or something. Bijan's going to get so much work that the Blue case that you just made, that he's this year's Kamani Vidal, is very valid. I also think we have to emphasize that he can win the job without an injury.
Yep.
And that's the other side. It's a very wide range play. It could be Vidal for sure. Pete, you brought up this earlier, and I said Jarquez Hunter. It's Dylan Sampson. I didn't see Sampson at first, and then I kind of mentioned him, but it's absolutely Dylan Sampson is the guy on this that I like, because I think he's standalone value plus contingent upside in a way that Jerome Ford to me is not a concern. They drafted 2 backs. They drafted him in the 4th round. Really good profile. Sampson was not far behind Trevor Etienne. Much of what I said about Etienne could be used on Sampson. He went like 12 picks behind Etienne. So he was like halfway through the 4th round, still pretty meaningful capital to a team that had already drafted a back. Like, that's actual investment in Sampson that I don't think is being valued, because it's so easy to mentally be like, well, they took a running back in front of him. They took Quinshon Judkins. The Packers did this when they took Aaron Jones. They took Jamal Williams higher than him, and Aaron Jones had the better early career, like right away, because he was a more talented player. Not saying Sampson necessarily is, but he was graded higher. He's one of these dudes that very clearly, I think, for a lot of the evaluators, was a top 5 back in other classes. But because this is a deep class, he's more like 10th in this class. But if they take both these dudes, you have to feel really strongly that they're going to just give Judkins all the work right away. And there's no real reason to believe that. They're going to use them both. They're going to use multiple backs in a lost season. So I think Sampson's going to have a real role, like a potentially 50-50 role with Judkins, and then potential to consolidate if like Judkins has an injury or whatever. The fact that he's going in the 200s is really bizarre to me. He should be going in the Jaydon Blue range. I mean, that's weird.
I like that case. Sampson was tricky for me because I liked him a lot pre-draft, but in part because he was pretty universally liked in the class. Like, if you looked at top 100s, he was almost always in a top 100. And I was just like, this guy's not going to, he might fall to the 4th, maybe the 5th, but he's not going to like what happened to Brashard Smith. He's not going to have a 7th round pick or whatever. But him then falling to day 3 has made me cool on him quite a bit. And then obviously with the quarterback situation there looking so bad, it's been tough. And then he isn't a pass catcher. He's more of like, he's a kind of a speed back, undersized speed back type of guy, but a good runner. But yeah, you make a good case. Like the incumbent is also a rookie. So there is upside here for him to just be better.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I really like the take that there's way more ambiguity to the Browns backfield than the ADPs suggest.
Yeah.
Because
I like that.
Judkins is being treated closer to Chuba Hubbard than he is Javonte Williams. And obviously, but I'm just talking like ADP wise, like the confidence that like, no, he's got a lock on this.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Let's see. Any of these, were there any other of the more expensive backs?
Do you know,
you guys wanted to talk about here?
I just want to make sure Gretch knows something.
What?
Probably the best element of Dylan Sampson's profile in my model.
Oh my God, he's leading in. This is going to be the darkest thing.
Success rate. He's a success rate, bro. I gotcha.
There you go.
Caleb Johnson.
Here comes the hammer. I can feel the hammer coming, Pat.
Yeah.
Caleb Johnson is a running back that Arthur Smith dreamt up. Jaylen Warren is the running back that plagues him in his nightmares.
You're super into Caleb Johnson.
Super into Caleb Johnson. This dude would the nerds, if he could have trimmed 3 pounds of body fat and ran a 4.49, the freaking slappies would have been like trying to wriggle to the top of the boiling pot to be highest on Caleb Johnson, like how everyone is in a contest.
Why are we getting boiled?
I got news.
That's
for
the
you,
bigger
buddy.
question. I got a lot more questions about why.
I
got news for you, buddy.
I got news for you, Pat.
Oh no!
Not all the slappies win $2 million playing fantasy sports. Many of them have a very different experience in this activity. Caleb Johnson is just like so evidently getting 16 rushes to Jaylen Warren's 8 week 1, and then 18-4 the next week, then 26-2 the next week for this iteration of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That gap got really wide. Really
got pretty big.
Warren is good at football.
It's gonna be stunning to see in real time how quick Jaylen Warren is gonna get marked.
26-2 in touches for Caleb Johnson.
26-2.
No, not touches, rushes, brother.
Do you know what was a wild one? So we were often on the clock yesterday because Underdog has their season-long prop lines up. And one that really surprised me, Caleb Johnson, rushing yards, 849.5 projection or line. Quinshon Judkins, 200 less, 649.5.
Wow.
Which that gap, because I thought a lot of the value from Caleb Johnson was kind of the bell cow, the pass catching element to it, but to have a 200-yard gap on Judkins was kind of eye-opening from that perspective.
It is eye-opening. And I do think the Aaron Rodgers thing is probably positive. Like one of the things he did bring last year to the Jets was receiving value for both backs. Braylon Allen, as a 20-year-old rookie that didn't necessarily have a great receiving profile, was getting checkdowns because like defenses still respect Aaron Rodgers' ability to throw down the field. And Rodgers will get down to a check down quickly and get it accurately and give the guy the room to catch a very catchable ball and run. Like so much of running back receiving does come down to the quarterback. I've made that case for a lot of years, and it really does. Like people are.
Unless it's Brees
I love
Hall.
Travion Henderson.
Didn't like throwing to Brees Hall for some reason.
No, Hall had decent receiving numbers too. They had some production.
I know, but it was frustrating.
I heard on ADP chasing it was because he was at the bar or the club all year.
He was at the club every day.
Isaiah Davis was great in the pass game too. You go look at their per catch numbers and stuff. So good. People are making. I hope you guys haven't made this case, and I'm not stepping on something here because I'm about to make the case is the dumbest thing I've seen all offseason. People are making the Travion Henderson, Josh McDaniels corollary like it's not all because of Tom Brady. Like the reason that Josh McDaniels running backs caught a bunch of balls is because Tom Brady has been the best quarterback probably in NFL history at getting the ball out, not taking sacks, and getting it to a check down. Well, Drew Brees is another great one. Rivers, there's a couple guys in that era of quarterback, but that's where the whole take for me of running back receiving being quarterback dependent comes from. Drake May is going to be great. There's a lot of things he's going to do well, but he's going to scramble, man, when he doesn't see plays down the field. The ways that quarterbacks work, the way that mobile quarterbacks don't throw to running backs so much is because they read out down the field and then they run, as opposed to reading out and getting the ball to their running back. Trayvon Henderson's still
May's
balls.
pretty quick
I'm
decision. I kind of disagree with that.
It's not the
May's
case. Okay, that's fair. But the case I want to make very clearly is that it's not Josh McDaniels' system that created running back receiving value. That's crazy.
I will say that you're maybe, I don't know, maybe you're not, but it sounds like perhaps you're underrating the running back element of this, because this was a big take. Well, you guys all remember when CMC went to the Panthers, Cam Newton doesn't throw to the running back. Mm-hmm. Well, Cam Newton threw to Christian McCaffrey because he was Christian McCaffrey. So my thing with Henderson is he's just a really good prospect. He's a good pass catcher. He's a really good runner. Ramondre's looking pretty cooked. His receiving numbers have been pretty bad the last couple of years. So I think Henderson is just a good-ass pick.
I'll fully agree with you that I'm oversimplifying that part of it, and I like that addendum that there are running backs that demand the ball in space in a way that leads to target share for them.
Right.
It's not fucking Josh McDaniels' offense that led to Tom Brady's running back target shares in the past. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, sure. That seems.
It may still lead to Trayvon Henderson catching a lot of balls for the reasons that you just said.
Yeah, I do think we took Amir Abdullah that one year that he was coaching the Raiders, but I do agree with you.
But look at Brady when he went to the Bucs. Leonard Fournette starts catching all these balls. Rashad White,
you're
catches
100%
all these
right.
balls.
Remember Rojo was just crushing and receiving
before Josh McDaniels was a head coach. He was throwing to Kevin Falk and all these other dudes. Like, he's always been able to get down to his running backs. Anyway,
I agree with you that it's Brady, not McDaniels. That seems pretty obvious. Brady, I mean, the way he plays.
Well, Pat thinks Drake May is Tom Brady, so that's why he's not concerned.
So it's the same. Don't talk bad about Drake May like that, please. He's way more mobile.
Like, no, we're good. It's just a passing of the torch. What are you guys doing with like Harvey? He slid, but maybe not as much as I thought. I thought he was going to kind of tumble into the.
I thought he'd get to
like
be next to Henderson, but that has not really happened.
I can't figure it out. I wrote a whole piece on Harvey and about how I really felt like he was going to get a lot more work than I believe in the Peyton sort of committee stuff. And I felt like Harvey was going to be a real meaningful part of that committee, no matter what, with ceiling to be even like what Kamara was at times, like consolidate more than most Peyton backs get to, because he does really use a committee over the course of all the different years that he's coached. And then they bring in Dobbins, who actually had some really good missed tackle force numbers, explosion rate, like explosiveness, like on film, like watching the games wasn't there. His long speed wasn't there, but he's a good runner. He's like a way better version of Javonte Williams. He's going to actually get into space and get this is a success rate take that I will give you, Pat. Like, J.K. Dobbins is going to have a success rate that Javonte Williams couldn't have. And that's tough for the split. I think the backfield's going to have more value this year just by better running backs being there. And I do think that Harvey's going to be really good, but I think the Dobbins thing really impacts both the floor percentage of the split that he could have and his ability to really consolidate everything. Because I think Peyton would prefer to have multiple backs involved, and I think they're both going to be involved.
I think
Dobbins is the better.
I've been taking a bunch.
Now.
You've been taking Dobbins a bunch?
I've been taking both.
Yeah. I still really like Harvey. I think you want to take both, but Dobbins is. I think you're right, Davis. I think Dobbins is the better pick.
Yeah. I just want I was thinking Harvey was going to get cheaper, and it was just going to be the easiest windmill in of all time with everyone overreacting, and then no one reacted pretty much at all. Well, like Mixon has slid further because of Chubb than Harvey has because of Dobbins.
And Dobbins never came up really. Where did he get to?
He's coming up. He's
inching up. It hasn't been a rocket ship. He's up to 130. Okay. So he flipped like the Ray Davis, Trey Benson, Rashad White tier.
But I took him in the 1 teens, like it was probably 10 days ago now. But I took him, so he was going to the 140s then. I just took him. I needed a running back. Like I think I had like Henderson and maybe Judkins or something. I'd gone like up with a few. Maybe I had Scatterboot. Like I had rookies, and I was like, I need a dude who's going to be producing in the early part of the season on this team. And I just like Dobbins is clearly the best bet of that archetype at this point. I'm not gonna try to push it.
Somebody
I
in
think
the
he could
chat
end up
here-
settling in that range.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat here, Pious Devil, said Dobbins faded pretty hard. Once again, couldn't stay healthy. Harbaugh couldn't get rid of him fast enough. I disagree with that. He got hurt. He missed a little bit of time. He came back and he was still somewhat effective. And then the contract this offseason for him was like an exclusive rights tag or something. I don't know the exact specifics, but there was something with Dobbins. Siegel was telling me about this, and I looked it up, and I can't remember exactly
It's
what
that
it was.
if he didn't sign by a deadline, then they got him back.
Then the Chargers got him back. If he didn't sign by August, so part of the waiting game on Dobbins all offseason, it was not the Chargers getting rid of him fast enough. They would have by default got him in August. That's how I understood it too. They would have got him in August if he didn't sign elsewhere. And Dobbins was basically playing the field, trying to figure out what he could get done, basically knowing he had a fallback plan lined up. A lot of free agents sign quick because it's like the money can dry up or you don't have an opportunity out there. But the understanding from what I understand, Dobbins was like had a fallback plan with the Chargers and it was already lined up.
Right.
And then he eventually found a deal that he likes more. And they did go get Najee and they did go draft Amari and Hampton. I understand that. But I don't think the way his contract was structured, it was the Chargers like trying to get rid of him as much as like they did obviously let him test the market and he signed somewhere else and all that stuff. But I don't know. I think the Dobbins stuff is pretty straightforward and pretty exciting too.
Yeah.
I do like Harvey a lot still, though. And Jacobs talked about how, like, we did not expect Harvey to have this whole backfield. We didn't think, if you just look at the way we were drafting it, we weren't drafting Estime. We weren't drafting Jaleel. So it was just like, we know there's additional volume here. We are uninterested in assigning it to anyone because we don't think these guys deserve it. The Broncos say, we agree with you. We're going to sign J.K. Dobbins, and that's where that volume will go.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's like, well, RJ Harvey's got to fall a bunch because J.K. Dobbins is going to eat into his workload. He could. It makes the bar higher for how good RJ Harvey has to be. But RJ Harvey's a pretty exciting prospect. I think there's a lot of upside. And then I think the floor is pretty, I mean, it's not high for the price, but I don't think he's going to end up being like just an absolute disaster because Dobbins, like he was actually kind of a boom bust runner. The funny thing about the success rate point there is that he was kind of boom bust last year. His success rate wasn't all that high, and he doesn't really catch passes, like at least not to the extent that you would hope RJ Harvey does. So Harvey could end up being, maybe the 1B and a disappointment, but someone who maybe comes on down the stretch and you're happy to have if you make the playoffs. And that's the bad outcome.
But the big difference, I think, between Dobbins and what you were saying, we weren't drafting Estime and Jaleel, is that Estime and Jaleel were on the team last year and didn't fit into Peyton's plans enough that he was willing to keep playing Javonte because of something that Javonte was bringing.
Sean Payton had a good quote talking about the backfield.
Javonte's success rate was horrible last year.
Right. So but I'm saying Dobbins is, if those guys are worse than Javonte, then Dobbins is
he'll be better than Javonte. He's on the worst offensive line with a better success rate than Javonte. So
he may just get on the field because he can do certain things, and that might be enough to be a headache for Harvey.
Agreed.
Peyton said we don't mind short rushers, but we don't like small rushers, which felt like he was just staring at Jaleel McLaughlin. Like, was nice knowing you, buddy. We'll see you in another lifetime, brother.
Yeah. Drafts Pat Bryant immediately comps him to Michael Thomas and is just like shooting glares over to like 4'11" Marvin Mims. Like, did you hear that?
Oh God. And he went out and like got Marvin Mims.
I know that was the whole tilting thing about that. It's like, no, this is supposed to be your guy, and he's clearly not your guy.
I wish we could draft Mims, but I can't draft that dude. My God. His best production last year was the running back receiving stuff because they had no other running back.
Talk to Davis. Davis won't listen about this.
This is going to be another 45 minutes. I don't have
45 minutes. So make it quick, Dave.
Sometimes you just got to believe the truth is out there. Marvin
It's
Mims.
in a tweet. The truth is in one single tweet. You just have to find it. It says Marvin Mims breakout is happening.
Marvin Mims.
You gotta get the X-Files music playing behind that clip, dude.
Marvin Mims, 9th in the NFL in yards per route run last year. He's a weird profile because he's really good with the ball in his hands and he's really good down the field, but basically has never been used as just like a normal ass wide receiver. There's probably reasons for that, but I continue to believe, and I will continue to believe.
Can we get one more Gretch take for the road?
Yeah, let's get a
What?
hot take.
So I'm not sure. We took Alvin Kamara as we talked about.
Don't
Which wasn't on
spoil
purpose.
There's some of these that aren't released yet, Pat, and you. So don't spoil.
This
if you're going.
will be released. This will already be released.
Okay.
Our first running back was Bucky Irving, and my buddy was texting. He's like, Gretch is really not in on Irving, and I just finished up the initial run of the legendary running back screener, which is like, looks at things like, are you a second year back? Like how many goal line touches or targets did you get? How many receptions? What's your receiving efficiency? So it's, just kind of like, here's the things that basically, if we can count on you to get all the work, you got like, who's got the kind of cleanest path to being a legendary running back? Irving came out number 1 in this year's running back pool. Yeah. In part because their offensive line looks like it's going to be rated really highly. Their passing game's going to be rated highly. So he's attached to strength, which really helps. But his receiving efficiency, he was number 2 in receiver rating, and he had 1.6 something yards per route run, which is in line with CMC's career average. So it's like the receiving side that like really, really pops. Obviously, he was a good runner too. So at the same time,
guy who had a terrible he had a terrible pass blocking rate, and they're talking about Rashad White as being the best pass blocker in the NFL. I think Rashad White is actually a real value, and I've never really been super in on him since his rookie year.
I think he is too.
They're going to still use him. They talk about how good of a pass blocker is. He's got size. Like Baker will throw to the backs. I don't think Bucky can consolidate all the routes. He'll run more routes than White probably overall because they'll put him in to use him. He's one of those guys they will use as a receiver. Like that's to your point. He's not a good pass blocker. He still ran almost as many routes as Rashad White last year in a season where he was like coming on as the secondary back. White got 1 carry in their postseason game when the money was down, the chips were down. They were like, yeah, Bucky Irving's our best player. They love him. I just saw an Athletic piece on him that came out where he has a really great relationship with Tom Moore, the 86-year-old offensive assistant for the Bucs. He was Peyton Manning's longtime offensive coordinator with the Colts years and years ago, and he's still coaching at 86. And apparently he still gets into the building at like 3 a.m. and Bucky's in at like 4, and they're like talking every morning. They're like, the whole piece is like weird pairing, right? Like fascinating that these guys found each other as two like football minds, but I think Bucky Irving is like the coolest dude in the world. I love having it. I loved having him last year. I do think in the second round, my concern with him again goes back to the test at athleticism. You have to be so good. He had a lot. One of the stats Sean told me about him when we were talking through this a little bit, and I think Sean's kind of in agreement on this, that Bucky's actually probably a little bit tougher to take at this point, particularly because of legendary upside, essentially, that he may not have that, which is because I think he has a really high floor. I think he's going to catch a lot of balls. I think he's going to be efficient because he's got a ridiculous evasion rate and missed tackle force rate. He still was really efficient last year, but he relied on big runs. But the stat that I'm working back around to is there was like 7 carries in the NFL last year of like 40 plus yards that didn't end in a TD. Don't quote this stat because I think it's 40 yards. He told me this like a month ago. He looked it up on his SIS database. I don't even know how to look it up, but it's like 40 plus yard carries that didn't end in a TD in the NFL. There's 7 of them or something, and Bucky had 3 of them, right? And like if you watched a lot of the games last year, Bucky was sick. He'd get into space. He'd have these big runs in the second level, make guys miss. You just can't outrun dudes. He's not that fast. Like it's a legitimate issue. And I think probably his rushing efficiency, as good as it shows, and it's probably really good in your model, is almost like capped out because there's like he's not actually doing what Saquon Barkley does. He doesn't go for 80-yard touchdown runs.
No. I agree with that. It's like it's more like he's Josh Jacobs, but he's a better receiver, and he is smaller, but he's
super dynamic.
195-pound Josh Jacobs, super freaking bullish. Dude.
He's gonna make a million.
He was
guys
an
miss.
elite receiver.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to make a million guys miss. He's an elite receiver. He's behind a great O-line. Rashad White is back up as such a bad runner that they didn't use him down the stretch at all. They gave him 1 carry in the postseason. I don't even think he's a threat at the goal line. I think Sean Tucker's probably your bigger threat at the goal line.
And we reference stats a lot but you watch these two guys run. One guy has so much juice, and the other cannot make a decision at the line. He just sits there.
It's crazy.
Like it's crazy.
It's crazy the difference.
The gap between those two as runners is wild.
I'm not out on Bucky. So some of the chat saying it's a bullish stat for Bucky. If the difference is the house calls, and that's fun variance to lean into. Bucky's never gonna have 6-yard TDs. He's gonna have a ton of 25-yard TDs. I'm saying if you look at what he did last year, which is why he's going in the second round, what he did last year is a maxed out version of that. I guess I did disagree that it's a bullish stat for Bucky from the perspective that he's going in the second round. He's being priced in a range with backs that do that. Like Jonathan Taylor is that back, right? Like, and that's what Saquon Barkley was in the second round last year. These dudes that are like run a 4.3, right? They will outrun everybody if they get into space. That's what Jahmyr Gibbs is. I'm a little worried that's not what Bijan Robinson is. If you want to go like how far and how much I think this stuff matters for ceiling, because I think this matters for ceiling in the modern NFL a ton. Defenses have gotten lighter. The big reason that Saquon hit, I wrote at the end of last year, the biggest takes from 2024, the biggest storylines for 2024. I write my piece every year. I do the 3 biggest. This year I did the 5 biggest because 2024 was so fascinating. But I wrote a lot about how defenses have gotten lighter and all this stuff. I was just rereading it recently. And one of my cases, or one of my 5 biggest things from 2024 was the rise of the trap back, which, Pat, you were the one who originally came up with the idea of the name for the trap back.
I came up with the name. You came up with the idea.
Yeah, sorry. I came up with the idea. You came up with the name. But the whole concept of high-value touchbacks, and then this is the opposite of trap backs. But the trap back profile could actually score last year because of the way that rushing efficiency has become more significant in a modern NFL where defenses are taking away explosive passes, getting lighter, playing more nickel. Ted Nguyen at the end of last year had a lot of great stats in The Athletic about it. But so you have this rushing profile where like guys can hit on explosive efficiency, rack up a ton of yards, have 2,000 rushing yards like Saquon did, or even 1,900 like Derrick Henry did, right? And those things are super meaningful. As far as like how you become the RB1 in 2025, that stuff is really significant. Bucky can be super efficient. I don't know that he's going to be able to get to that level. I don't know that Bijan's workload is better than anyone's in the league. When I go through the projections, it's incredible. I'm a little concerned that he's going to get to that level from what he's shown us at the NFL level. But I think he probably has it. He's better from a tested athleticism perspective. But like that's why I think Jahmyr Gibbs should be the RB1 this year, actually. And I'm a little concerned about Saquon getting like 400 touches. But Jahmyr Gibbs is that's a Bucky stat. Like he's that. Jahmyr Gibbs is that there's still meat on the bone. Like there is still meat on this bone. If David Montgomery misses meaningful time, he's going to hit on so many huge plays. I think he should be the 102. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is like, he's been an amazing offensive line, all that stuff. He's Bucky, but he's going to be able to finish off long runs in addition to that, And to me, Bucky's a good
Gibbs
pick
has
in
a
best
ton
ball.
of upside for sure.
Bucky's a guy in best ball that I would be taking. I think after the first like 16 or so players, 17 players, this back into the second round and the third round are tough in best ball from what I've looked at so far. And Bucky goes in that range. And I can understand why he's pushed up in that range because it's flat. And I think he's going to be good. I think he's a high floor, solid running back you can take in best ball where you can't do the Frankenstein running back, play waivers and start different running backs every week and manage that stuff as well, right? You have to get all your late round picks right to be able to execute zero RB. I think zero RB is obviously easier to execute and manage where you can make changes to your roster. I think Bucky's a little bit more replaceable ceiling wise in managed from that perspective.
That was my thinking before I like kind of did all this, I plugged everything in, and basically what I got back is like, hey, have you considered that a guy who's the clear lead running back on his team, who gets a bunch of work in the receiving game and is very efficient there, and also gets used at the goal line, has a lead
is
ceiling.
really good.
And that
as a second year who's super efficient. Yeah.
Super efficient as a rookie, gets the second year additional workload in the receiving game. And that is where we do see the jump in year 2, where guys actually get used a lot more in the receiving game.
The clear lead, I mentioned they only used Rachaad White for 1 carry in the postseason, but they were going all out in a really tough game against the Commanders that they ended up losing. I don't know that they're going to do that all season. I actually expect this team to use a committee, basically. And they're still talking about Sean Tucker even. Yeah. Like, if White gets hurt, I think they still use Tucker. I think I think he's going to be a 15 carry and whatever, 3 to 5 catches. Like he's going to be a 20 touch back, Bucky, but he's not going to be Bijan Robinson level touches or Saquon Barkley level touches.
Probably
like,
not.
These guys dominate
or
the
efficiency
backfield.
of those guys either.
Well, that's where I
get close.
disagree. I think he might have the efficiency. Not
I think Bucky is
runs,
a lot
but
closer to kind of like Chase
consistency and
Brown,
receiving.
Kyron Williams, Breece Hall than the market is indicating.
I'm pretty out on most of those guys. I think Chase Brown could be interesting. I think Breece is a tough pick. I think Kyron's a tough pick.
I'm still
Bucky,
very
I don't
on
think
Breeze.
You're still really on Breece.
I
I'm not.
think he's
going
to dust those guys behind him. I just think I think some stuff was misinterpreted about those quotes. How they're going to use everybody and stuff. His numbers last year were terrible.
What numbers?
Yeah,
I wasn't into Allen as a prospect.
Watch the games though.
Having been young once is never that big of a sell to me.
He was like 20.
He's still young.
Last year. Yeah.
No, but it was that he was young as a college freshman was the big thing. It's like, okay, but
he was
didn't have
last
that
year
great of a
too.
He's
career.
4 years younger than RJ Harvey.
Okay, yeah. Some of his numbers were not great.
His numbers were straight up trash last year.
His numbers were not
he
very
was not
good.
Yeah. He looked like he was going to get passed by Isaiah Davis.
We
But he's
are
a 20-year-old getting real
But
volume.
okay, well, I'm glad he's young. I hope he has a nice, life ahead of him. He's got his whole life to live. I don't think he's going to pass Breece Hall.
He's got his whole life ahead of him.
Breece lost a lot of efficiency last year too in that same. I think the offense was partly to blame.
He did.
that was because he was at the club. And so we have,
He was at the club every day though, Gretch.
Yeah. All right. Gretch, the Substack, stealing Substack, stealing Signal Substack, obviously stealing bananas. What else should people keep an eye out for?
That's pretty much it, I think. Yeah. BenGretch.substack.com. I'm doing and the projection series with Leone over at Establish the Edge.
Yep.
Through 2 episodes. We were recording Division 3 tomorrow morning. Should be done with that by like the middle of July. And yeah, a ton of similar type team by team sort of analysis, breakdowns, thoughts, nuance, whatever, like I just did with Bucky. Like obviously I overanalyze things if anything, but I like to write all that stuff up eventually too. So if you like the long-winded thoughts, that's what it's part of, me doing a few less shows and stuff is just focusing on the writing side. And so, yeah, bengretch.substack.com, you'll see lots of thousands of words to read about all this kind of stuff.
Love it. Mr. Dave Maddock, other than not clicking Roshan Johnson in upcoming drafts, what other tantalizing things can you titillate the people with?
I'm doing a stream tomorrow where I'm saucing member teams. So like if you're a YouTube member, you just submit a team in the Discord and I'm going to be saucing them 10 a.m. tomorrow. If it's good and people like it, we'll keep doing it. And if it's terrible and painful for everyone, it'll probably just be a one-time experience. So really it's up to you at home. Only you can prevent forest fires.
As the trio who invented saucing drafts, the issue you run into is people just send you their really good drafts and then basically just want you to be like,
yeah,
right, this is actually pretty good.
See, buddy,
Good job, dude.
trust me, not an issue for me. I can take umbrage with anyone. I think as we've learned over the last couple of months, I could shit on even the best possible picks. I was just telling you guys Bucky Irving sucked 5 minutes ago, so it's pretty possible.
There are no good picks.
There are no good picks.
After saying I'm good with Bucky, before we selected him in our main event draft, which by the way, check out the minisodes in the morning. I'm going to post the one where the Piss Boys return over the course of 4 picks. Pat, what's up at Legendary Upside?
I just wrote some thousands of words on tight ends, looking at their play action rates. Hoping to have that out in the next day or so. I'm going to probably break it into 2 articles and talk through some of the rookie situations that the rookie tight ends are going to. But the first part will just cover my thoughts on the veteran tight ends, basically everyone in the player pool. And then the sidekick with the Sims upgrade, which will be very exciting. That allows us to support formats like Eliminator and Weekly Winners and all that stuff. That should be launching any day now. So keep an eye out for an announcement post there. Very excited about that. And then, yeah, going to be good content rolling out on the site as well from Matt Irby and Michael Dubner very soon.
Sweet. I don't have anything tomorrow. Saturday, I'll have After Dark. Still going to book a guest, and then back on Monday with Best Ball Breakfast. Thank you to everyone hanging out. Thank you to Gretch swinging by for old time's sake. Everybody loved the show from what I'm seeing in the chat. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you, I guess, next time on the channel, the minisodes and ADP chasing on Tuesday. Peace.